Hi all, can you guys hear me? Having a few technical issues right now. Oh, perfect. Can you guys see me? Yep, this is a brand new stream slot added to the last second, but I'm here to show you guys how to make cookies quicker in case you guys don't have a game to submit. Oh, no, I am not a hack with a bunch of icons around it. I am trying to find a way to add myself to this. Okay. Yeah, give me like 1 minute to sort this out. So sorry for the delay. Oh, I see myself now. Okay, here we go. Let me real quickly add my screen. Give me 1 minute. So sorry once again. Alright, can y'all see the screen? Or is it a little too big? I don't know why, but it's not letting me see my screen. So sorry, y'all. My hair is kind of crazy right now, too. Okay. This song is called Electropop. That's what I see it as. Alright, can you guys see my screen, or is it pretty small right now? Gotta make sure that everything looks good. Alright. Okay, so going over everything, what we're going to be doing today, we are going to be creating a cookie clicker application using Nextjs and Tailwind. Okay, yeah. So I don't know how many of y'all are familiar here with Create Next App, but today we'll be using Create Next App. But because I can't really show the process of it because I've already created the project for my own computer, I will show you guys how to real quickly create a Nextjs application. So for a reference, I would highly recommend using the Nextjs docs if you guys aren't already familiar with Nextjs. The docs are one of the best I have ever seen, honestly comparable to the Mozilla Developer Network docs. So if you have any question, the best source of truth is their developer docs. So if you guys have coded with React before, you guys are probably already familiar with oh yeah, the lettuce emoji in the title. Yeah, you guys are probably already familiar with Create React app, which unfortunately has been deprecated since March last year, so about a year now. So the successor to that, especially for Next applications, is Create Next app. So if you guys haven't already, I would open up a folder or open up a terminal in a folder and go ahead and run the command npx space create dash next dash app. Once you create that, it will prompt you with a bunch of instructions or questions asking how you would like to set it up. I would recommend putting cookie dash clicker for name and then doing no to TypeScript. I'm more familiar with TypeScript, but I want to make sure that I can try to capture as many people in this tutorial. So I would recommend using just JavaScript for now. So enter no for TypeScript. After that, say yes to ESLint, yes to Tailwind CSS, yes to source directory, yes to app router, and then no to customize the default import alias. So I will give y'all a second real quick to go through that. I know it's kind of a lot, so yeah, just run create next app, enter cookie clicker, and I can go ahead and just write that real quick. Maybe. It's not letting me. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Yeah, those that are still coming in, this is a very impromptu cookie clicker stream. We are going to be coding cookie clicker and then playing cookie clicker for this 2-hour block before we have our last workshops and then wrap up Global Hack Week. So if you guys don't already know who I am Ryan L or Ryan Lahlou. I am the third Ryan in MLH. I am probably one of those coaches that you see on the nav bar, and I am one of the few real Ryans from MLH. So yeah. Oh, you're leaving, Cat? Dang. That's right. This should yeah, I can upload it to GitHub and drop it in the comments, so or in the GitHub, or sorry, the GHW general chat. So yeah. All right, take care, Cat. All right, so I'll give you all about 1 more minute, but once again, for those who are just catching us now, we are creating cookie clicker in Nextjs. If you guys haven't already or aren't already familiar with Create Next App, basically run npx space create dash next dash app, and that will prompt you with these lists of instructions. For the most part, just enter cookie dash clicker, then enter no, yes, 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 and then no again. Oh yeah, shoot your question. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Is it Sarthak? What's your doubt? All right, I'll go ahead and continue. If you want to type it out. How to retain all the knowledge. Okay, so I guess learning Next.js or React in general is kind of hard to learn from just a tutorial standalone. For the most part, if you want to retain knowledge, especially with Next.js, a framework built on React, I would highly recommend just building some projects, going just straight into a project or reading the Next docs and then going into a project and just keep building up your skills by building more projects. The best way to learn anything is to have a lot of hands-on experience. So take this as one of your hands-on experience. You probably won't remember most of what I will cover, or anyone here probably won't remember much of it, but the goal is to eventually just expose yourself more and more to front-end frameworks, and hopefully you'll retain a lot more by that way. I guess I should also talk about what Next.js is for those who are unfamiliar. So if you guys know what React is, which a lot of people should, React is a JavaScript library to help build front-end web applications. Next.js is a React framework that builds on React, but because it's a framework, it's a lot more strict and it has a lot more guidelines for you to follow. So it's a lot more formulated compared to React. The biggest difference with React versus Next.js is that Next.js introduces the suspense boundary and kind of formalizes it with client-side and server-side rendering. So if you want to think of it from a logical standpoint, whenever you have React, let's say, whenever you have React and you load a web page, what it does is the web page that you have is called the real DOM, and the web page that is kind of virtualized is called the VDOM, or the Virtual Document Object Model. With that, it kind of just tells the difference whenever you click on a component or you have some kind of action, and it only updates on the real DOM or your browser the difference. So if you think about it, it's a lot more fast and efficient because you aren't constantly reloading the web page every time you make a change. Instead, you're only updating what is new. What Next.js does is it kind of abstracts that one level more, if that kind of makes sense, and introduces statically compiled documents. So if you imagine, let's say like you're imagining a YouTube application. YouTube, for the most part, has a bunch of text that is static, like the YouTube logo, I guess parts of the nav bar. I guess YouTube isn't the best example because it's very dynamic, but there are parts that don't change with user interaction or change from fetching information from a database. So what Next.js does is it's basically taking the part that doesn't need to be calculated whenever you load something or whenever you try to send an API call, and it compiles that down during build time and basically serves it to you with holes cut out for the parts that are client side. So think about it as you have a web page. Some stuff doesn't need to be loaded. The parts that aren't loaded are server side, and the parts that are loaded are client side. So it's basically just allowing cookie cutter holes for that logic. That way, a lot of the logic doesn't have to be reserved to your browser. A lot of it is statically compiled. That kind of makes sense. But yeah, Next.js, that's the main difference between that and React. In general, it's a lot more efficient and better for SEO, or search engine optimization, because a lot of it is statically compiled, which allows, let's say, Google's crawler to crawl along it and get all the information. Because it struggles a lot with React, especially for React pages that have a really long load time, or what they call contentful paint. So yeah, React applications are rank usually are a lot harder to rank typically compared to Next.js applications because a lot of it is statically compiled. Oh, that's great, Cat. Okay, so just getting into it, if you guys just want to watch along and not code it along, that's also all right, but I'll give some time if you do want to code it. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know. I'm a fast talker, so tell me to slow it down if I'm going a little too fast. So I'm assuming everybody here has created a Next application and has a VS Code or whatever IDE you want open inside of your the folder. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, if you guys aren't familiar with creating node projects, is I'm going to type in npm run dev, which is basically just running a development version of this project. So you can see it says that it's hosted locally at localhost 3000. So if I go ahead and reload this page, it should load the basic Next.js application. So this is just their starter template, and we can go ahead and remove all of it by going into source and then page. Another thing that might be kind of confusing to y'all is how is Next.js's file structure laid out, basically. So the idea is a lot of the stuff on the left side here, you don't need to worry about. This is just configuration stuff, which you shouldn't have to touch too much. If you guys know how to change it, feel free to, but for the most part, you won't need to. So the way it works is everything in the app folder is loaded. Oh, is it really loud right now? I thought I toned it down a tiny bit, but yeah, the music is going on a little bit. I really love the funky nature of it. We can go ahead and play the corporate soundtrack. Yep. Okay, actually, let's do something more hype. I need some energy in here. So, what this? Oh, that's kind of slow. All right, let's do this. Okay. So yeah, so the way that Next.js works and the way they do their file layouts is by something they call the app router. Now, if you look on their documentation, you might notice that there are two types of routers. There's a page router and an app router. As of Next.js 13, which was the last version, we're on 14 now, they had something called the pages router. For the most part, that's kind of abandoned, or not exactly abandoned, but they recommend switching to the app router, which is a lot more intuitive, in my opinion, and easier to grasp in a way, because the way they make the project structure is a lot easier and intuitive. So the way it works is everything that is inside of your app folder is going to be considered as part of the page routing. So let me see if I can find a good page here. They don't show it. Unfortunate. The way it works is the two most common files that you will have in your app router, besides folders, are going to be layout files, and they're going to be page files. So let me see if I can find an example of them listing it here. Go to layout. One moment. Yeah, here. So these are the different type of routing files that you can have. The most common ones you'll have are layout and pages. The way it works is think of layout as a template and the page as the thing that's inside of the template, which you can see if you go into the layout page generated by Create Next App, where all it is it's just an HTML page with a body element that is wrapping a child element or child prop. And with that, it's basically just think of it as like a blanket around a person. It's just wrapping you up, and it's kind of the definition of a structure. So yeah, let's say you want to have a nav bar in a web page. You put your nav bar in the layout, and basically any page that is a child of the app folder is going to be applied to that root layout page. So if you put so let's say you put a nav bar in this page right here. What it would essentially do is every single page that you have from then on would have a nav bar. So it's a really easy way to have duplicated duplicated components across pages. And of course, you can have sub layouts. All right, see a cat. Yeah. And then if you have a page, what that basically does is it creates a page there, and that's how you kind of have your layout. Or sorry, that's how you have your code or your pages, right? Page is a page. So with that and saying that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to nuke page, because a lot of this we won't need. And I'll create the basic structure for our cookie clicker application. So going ahead here, I'm going to just pause real quickly for everyone to catch up for just 10 seconds. And all right, okay. So let's go ahead and create the cookie clicker application. So the first thing that we'll need is we'll need to actually divide our page. So if you guys aren't familiar with cookie clicker, I already have a version that I am playing right now. You can see that there's 3 different sections here. One with a cookie, one with all of the buildings laid out, and then a store. What we're going to be doing is we're only going to be doing the left side and the right side because we won't have enough time to do that middle part. So let's go ahead and implement that. So let's give ourselves 2 divs here to represent each side of the page. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then add another. And then in this main class, everything for the most part should be fine. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to remove this padding because our web app is going to go from side to side. So, and I'm also going to change it from flex column to flex row. So also, for those unfamiliar with Tailwind, the way it works is that you basically style with classes, which makes it a lot simpler to code if you are in smaller projects versus, let's say, bigger projects, because everything is right there. You don't have to jump in and out of CSS files. So here we can see that we now have, I also want to make it the height of the screen. I don't want to have any smaller spacings. So yeah, for the most part, that's going to be our entire page. We have 2 divs here representing the left side and the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this as big cookie, which is the cookie that we click. And then I'm going to create a shop here. So in this, we can go ahead and add another element, which for now, Copilot has me, cookie shop. Yes, exactly. That's what I want it to be. For that second part, I can actually just even rename it to shop here. And let's say on the big cookie, we want to have, we probably want to give a name of a bakery, don't we? So I'm going to go ahead and add a P element, and I'm going to do Ryan's Bakery. It's going to give me an error because I need to do an apostrophe thing here. So that's ampersand, apos, semicolon. And then I want to have a cookie counter. So I'm going to go ahead and add some components here that we will fill in later. So cookie counter. And then we are going to have, we also need a Big E cookie. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in a div. So do that. I don't know why it's giving me an error now. Oh, there you go. Okay, I'm going to wrap that in a div, and then I'm going to give it a Big E cookie. All right, so now we have two components. It is yelling at me because we haven't created these components yet, but we'll get to that later. Along with this shop, we're going to want to have a component that will act as the shop. So I'm going to go ahead and add cookie shop. And yeah, all right. So we have the bare bones. If I save this, you will see that the components aren't defined, of course. So let's go ahead and create some components. So not in the app router, but in the source router, in the source folder, we're going to add another folder called components. In this component folder, we're going to add 3 new files to represent each of these components. So we're going to add cookie counter.jsx, JSX being file extension for JavaScript components. Then we're going to add cookie counter, or we already added that actually. So we're going to add Big E cookie.jsx, and then we can see the last one that we need to add is cookie shop. Cookie shop.jsx. All right. So now that we have that, I'm going to scaffold. I use snippets. So what I typed was tsrfc, which is just a functional component in TypeScript. But we're not using TypeScript, so I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the types to let it be happy. For the most part, all you're going to have to do is just do import React from React, export default function, the name of the file, empty parentheses, and then open braces, and then just return a blank div, or return a div with something in it. That's pretty much the outline of each component in React, and in this case, Nextjs as well. So I added all 3 components, and the last thing I have to do now, because it's still yelling at me on the right side of the screen, is I'm going to have to import all of these components. So what I'm going to do is, sadly, it didn't auto-do that for me. I am going to import cookie counter from @/components, being, it's a alias that was asked of you to change at the very beginning whenever you're initiating the project with Create Next App. Basically means that @ is a relative to your file itself. So if you were to source. So if you did @/components, it would basically act as source/components. So it's an easier way to relatively do file paths. And you can set up your own custom ones in JSConfig or tsconfig, depending on what language you're using. So let's go ahead and import cookie counter. Then let's go ahead and import Big E cookie, and then import cookie shop. So after doing that, we should have no more yelling from the page, and we now have text displayed. So these are all of our components being displayed as text. Now, let's work on some styling because this is kind of ugly. So what I'm going to do at the very beginning here is I am going to just add some styling. It's going to be kind of difficult to explain all of the styling concepts, but if you guys want to look these up, I would highly recommend looking at the Tailwind CSS documentation, which will show you what all of these mean. So I'm going to do width of half of the spaces taking up, so half of the screen right now. I'm going to do 100% height. I am going to do flex for flexbox. I'm going to do flex column. I'm going to do justify start. I'm going to do gap 32. And then I'm going to do padding on the y-axis of 8 rem, which is 32. I'm going to do item center kind of everywhere right now. And then because I want to have a division in between these two screens, I'm going to go ahead and add a border to the right side of 2 REM, and then give it a color of border black. And after doing all of this, you should see everything is magically centered. And if you guys don't trust me on this, just trust me. This is just CSS magic. If you go to Tailwind Docs, you guys can see it. But yeah. Also, if you guys haven't already, please don't forget to check in with the link if you guys want to get your swag bags from MLH. So please check in if you guys haven't already. I know the page is kind of glitched, but just trust that it works. Okay, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're now gonna style the container that's containing the cookie counter and the bakery, your bakery name. So what we're gonna do real quickly is we're going to do a full width. That way it can span the entire width of this box that it is in over here. We are going to give it flex box. We're going to make it a flex column so it goes downwards. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do a class name. All right. Yeah, and then we are going to justify center, so that way it's in the center horizontally. And then we are going to do item center, and then give it a gap of 2, so there's a little bit of spacing in between. So you can see it didn't do much, but it added some spacing. After that, let's go ahead and stylize the name of the bakery. That way it's easier to see. So we're going to go ahead and give it white text. We're going to give it a text opacity of 75. We're going to make the background black, give that a opacity of 50%, so it's not fully black. And then we're going to give it padding on the x-axis of half an REM. Then we are going to add some to the y-axis. Go ahead and make this rounded so it's not a square, and then make it extra large text. So you can see all of that magically made a pill with my name, which is Ryan's Bakery. All right, after that we have cookie counter, and yeah, so the next part is to just style the shop real quick. So I know this is going to be a lot of styling here. So we're going to give it a width of half once again. We're going to do full height. We're going to give it flex, make it a flex column. We're going to justify center. Then we're going to give it item center. And then after that, we're going to real quickly stylize the name of the shop, which will be with a full heading Y of half a rem, text of 4XL, which is just a large text. Give it bold font, make the text center, text white as well. Let's give it a background too of black and make that 50% opaque. And then backdrop blur, which we would use if we had a textured background. So you can see it's kind of working, but it's not all the way up where we would like it to be. Which we will fix in a second. After that, we also have cookie shop set up. Let me just real quickly see why it's not taking up the entire screen. Oh, I accidentally changed it from NH screen to that. Oh, that broke it even more. Oh, I forgot this. Then we do H screen. Okay, that part is fixed. Just swipe between, flex row, item center. Then this right here. I'll also just do transition all here because we might have some animations coming up. Width, height full. Yeah, okay. I guess that's fine for now. We'll worry about that in a tiny bit. Oh, I just realized where it's not justify center, it's justify start. That way it's at the top. There you go. All right. So we have the general layout of all of the components set up now. And all we're going to do now is start to implement each component. But the first thing you might be thinking of is how do you get information through components in React, especially through Nextjs? So the way that React standardizes this is through something through use context. And context is basically a way to share information through multiple components and grab it without having to tunnel through components with props and back up. So it makes everything a lot simpler. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder in source, and we're going to call it utils, and then we're going to create a file called actually, for now, I'm going to create a utils.js, which we will use in a tiny bit, which I'll get to y'all, or I'll tell y'all in a bit. But before then, we want to create a cookie provider, and that cookie provider will provide cookie context. Wow, this is making me hungry. Okay, cookie provider.js. So this is the file where we will create the context for us to use. So yeah, I'll take a few breaths so you guys can catch up. I'm kind of going a little fast, but yeah, making an entire application in 2 hours is really hard. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in. If you guys haven't checked in already, please check in at the link in chat. All right, okay. So the way that cookie provider is going to work is we're going to return a component that that we will use in the main layout, and in that main layout, that's going to be what provides context. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a context. So we can do that by const cookie context. That's the name of it. And then we can use create context from React. After that, let's create a function to use cookie context, which will be with export function use cookie context. And then we will return use context, giving it cookie context. So after that, we actually need to create the context provider. So what I'm going to do real quick is we are going to create this provider with export function cookie provider, give it some children props, or not children, children. And then inside of this, we are going to just do a quick, I guess we can use this, yeah. Cookies, set cookies, giving it a default value of 0 using useState, and then basically returning this provider with that context. But what I'm going to actually change instead is I'm going to, yeah, actually, let's leave it like this for now. I'll get back to that in a second. But real quickly, to stop this error of it's missing prop validation, which is doing type checking, one of my extensions, I'm just going to give it a cookie provider of children being prop type, prop types.node.is required. And that's my version of type checking in JavaScript. So doing that, it should stop this from yelling at me. Real quick, actually, we are going to change this to context value, which we will define above. And real quickly, let me just check everything is right. Yeah. So with this, I'm actually going to remove that starter code. Let's use this starter code instead. And it's just saying that there's this context value. Oh, why isn't it working? Actually, I'll just make it from scratch here. So we are going to use memo. So it's going to memoize everything, which is just a way to save memory. If you guys aren't familiar with memoization. And we're just going to have this lambda real quick that will essentially set cookies to 0 and then have a function set cookies. So it's kind of like a use state, but from scratch. So yeah, this is our cookie provider. And now we need to implement it. So what we can do is in this layout file, we can real quickly just wrap children in cookie context. Right? Yeah. Is that right? No. No. It's just cookie provider. What am I doing? Okay. Yeah, sorry. Cookie provider. And then we just close that. Cookie provider. Oop, there we go. Sorry. Coding is hard. And with that, it also automatically imported cookie provider using @utils/cookie provider. Oh, this is going to be yelling at prop validation, so let's go ahead and do a quick root layout.prop. Prop types is equal to children being prop types.node.is required. There we go. And that should stop yelling at us now. Oh, and we are going to be getting an error in cookie provider saying that we never defined create context. But we did. Oh, it's using require. Okay. Don't do this. Do import this from React. That is the better way to do it. And now it should work. You're putting, oh, right. So getting back to server versus client components, if you're going to be using stuff like use context, use effect, use state, you can only do those in client components because that is changing data. So you can only use the default server-side component, which just doesn't require any text above, if you are working with static information and nothing dynamically. So this is working with dynamic information, and we are returning a component, so therefore we have used use client here. So if we type that, prop types is not defined. That means I forgot to import that from somewhere. So let's real quickly import prop types from prop types. And then I probably also forgot that in layout. So I'm gonna add that to layout real quick. And then use memo isn't defined as well. Okay, let's go ahead and add use memo. There we go. Okay. So now we have implemented our own custom context for this entire application. That way we can get cookie information in and out of components. So you don't see any change here because we haven't actually implemented anything, but we're essentially starting and paving the way to store cookie information. So I guess to begin, let's go ahead and start creating our main cookie. So let's create Biggie Cookie. So Biggie Cookie is not a massive component in and of itself. It's actually pretty simple. All we have to do is kind of just make a button here. Let's create a button for Biggie Cookie. In fact, I want Biggie Cookie to be an image. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually first I'm going to import image from Nextjs, which is how you load images in Nextjs. It's similar to the lowercase img, but it's a more optimized way to load images where Nextjs will magically just wave a wand and do all the hard work for you to optimize everything. All it requires though is four things. It is a source, an alt, a width, and a height. You have to set a height and a width, unfortunately, but let's go ahead and set an arbitrary number 384, which is I think just 512 minus 128. So yeah. And then we can do Biggie or click Biggie Cookie for the alt text, and then let's name the actual cookie Biggie Cookie.webp. WebP is a new file format that's recommended to use in the web, but we don't have it currently. So let's go ahead and look up cookie clicker cookie. We can get that. We can download that real quick. And I already have it downloaded, so I'm going to copy and paste it from a folder that I have. But if you want to get this cookie, just search up cookie clicker cookie. And if I just real quickly copy and paste that over here, I can copy and paste it into the public folder, which is where all of our assets are. And you should very quickly see a big cookie. So now we have a Biggie cookie that we can use to click and get more cookies from. But as you can see, this cookie doesn't do much as it stands. So let's add some functionality to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a handler to handle on clicking or cookie clicks. So const handle click is equal to this. And we are going to go ahead and we'll just say Biggie cookie is clicked. And then after that, we can do a on click is equal to handle click, which is this handler we made. And let's go ahead and do some styling to it. So let's do transition all, which just add some transitions for us. We can do a on hover. Let's say we scale it by 5%. And then whenever we click it, we can scale it minus 5%. Ooh, it's gonna yell at me. Why is it yelling at me? Oh, we need to make this a client component because we're changing information, right? You'll see that will be a massive issue when dealing with Next.js. So yeah, now whenever we hover over it, it gets bigger, and then we can click it, and it has this nice bouncy animation with the transition all. So yeah, for the most part, if we also go into our console, we can see that it console logs Biggie cookie clicked. So now we're able to get on click events. So now that we have that, we have our cookie. Let's make the next component, and that is cookie counter. So this is how we'll see our clicks per second or cookies per second, as well as the total cookies that we have. So all of that cool information, just conveying it to the user. So what we can do is, before I make the mistake, let's go ahead and make this a client component because we're going to be changing information here or showing dynamic information. So use client, create that, and we can go ahead and just in this div add 2 paragraph tags, which will contain our information. So we can make a go ahead and make this, let's say, cookies, and then this part over here can be clicks per second, and then styling it all, doing some CSS magic or tailwind magic. We can give it full width, 1 rem padding on the X, a 4th padding on the Y. You can make it a flex box, make it a flex column, justify it in the center, item center, make the text white, make it a black background, make that kind of opaque so we can see behind it. And then let's do a backdrop blur in case we have a dynamic background in the future or a texture background in the future. Why is it? Oh, class name. There you go. All right, cookies actually won't display anything, so I'm just going to type in cookies for now before we put stuff in. Cookies, and then let's have clicks per second. I'm just going to type in 0 for us to see something. Let's go ahead and style this text as well so it's a little bit differentiable and we have some saliency to it. So text 2 extra large, font bold, text center. And then in this one, let's go ahead and give it text base, which is the standard size. I guess I can even omit that, and then do text center. So you can see we have some cool looking UI being created here, which is really, really cool. So yeah, now that we have the basics of each component, we'll touch Cookie Shop later because that one's kind of hard and dynamic to implement. We can actually start coding the cookie context. So this provider that we're creating with cookie context is going to basically contain all of the logic for everything. We want to make all the information as accessible as possible. So we're going to put everything in this context provider, and it will do all of the calculations and logic for us. Saying that, we have to actually implement cookie clicker logic, which is a lot of logic and a lot of big numbers. Because if you guys don't recall or haven't played cookie clicker before, you have really, really high values the more and more you play the game, because you start to get trillions, septillions, octillion numbers of cookies per second. So we have to create these numbers. So I'll go ahead and spare y'all the cost. I'll go ahead and just on the street out all of the values that cookie clicker uses, so you guys don't have to look it up yourself. So I'm going to create a constant object containing all this information, and we're going to call it base building cost. So you can see that GitHub Copilot is trying its hardest right now to suggest all the information, but a lot of it is unfortunately incorrect. So I'm going to copy and paste from my notes all of the predefined values, and you can see these are all the values for all of the different building costs. It's a lot. The next thing we're going to have to do is, with these buildings, each of them provide a different amount of cookies per second, or they add a different amount of cookies to your clicks per second. So I'm going to export a const called base building CPS. And once again, I'll spare you all the time, and I'll just copy and paste from my notes all of the values, and you can see these are all of the values for how many cookies per second each building will provide you. So with that, we also need to, I guess, calculate the total CPS as well as calculate building costs. So I'm going to go ahead and create some templates some skeletons of all of these different functions. So we're going to do calculate building cost, and we're going to just give it an empty function to do. We're going to then add calculate total CPS, which will also be another skeleton. And yeah, those are pretty much the two helper functions that we will be using in this component and outside of this component. Outside of that, now we got to do some state logic to actually store all of these cookie values, which kind of gets a little complicated, but I'll walk it through step by step. But real quickly before we continue, if you guys are new and joining the stream, please check this link in chat and sign in to get points and to claim MLH swag. Sorry if I'm stuttering a little bit. Going pretty fast right now to make sure that we can get everything in the 2-hour time slot. All right, okay. Continuing and going 900 miles an hour, let's create the bare bone structure, or the part that in our code that stores all of the values that we have. And this object will be transferring in and out of components. That way you can update it, get building information, clicks per second information, just basically display all the information we will need on our website. So we're going to begin and create a use state. So I'm going to be boring and name it state. That way it's kind of easy to tell with this mess of code we're about to write. And I'm going to start writing everything. So we want to have cookies, which stores how many cookies we have. Then I'm going to actually remove set cookies for now. Then we're going to have clicks per second, or cookies per second. Then we want to have an object listing all of the different upgrades we can get. So thank you, Copilot, for autofilling all the information for me. But I also have a copy and paste on my notes to make sure all the values are right. It is perfect. And this will be the data structure or datum that will store everything for us. So yeah, going off of that, we can also create a function to calculate all of our building costs. So from that, because I don't want to recalculate it every time something changes, I will be memoizing this. So I'm going to call it, so we already have a function here that we're going to finish later. I'm going to call it memo calculate building cost, and I'm going to make it use a use callback. And with this, it's going to basically take in some information and do something with this information, which will be to do for now. I also need to import this if it will let me. Oh, it won't. What a shame. Just do use callback, import that so we can stop yelling at me. And do I have use state on here? I don't have use state. Use state. I'll go ahead and add in use effect. We'll be using that in a tiny bit. All right. Okay. So from here, we have a few more functions left to implement. So I'm going to go ahead and add the skeletons. So we're going to add a const purchase upgrade. So this is going to be the function that we'll deal with whenever we want to purchase a new upgrade, which will also use a use callback. And with this, I'm just going to give it a empty lambda that we will fill in a bit. So I'm going to also do to do here. And then two things left after this, almost done. The next thing that we're going to do is with these context values, we're going to want to actually update these. So if you remember, we had this base building block. We can go ahead and with this context value that we will be able to access. So I guess to backtrack a little bit, this context value or this object that we're going to have is going to contain all the information that we will allow any component to use if they use the use cookie context, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to append all of this initial information that we created with this use state. So that contains our cookies, CPS, and upgrade information. And we're just going to go ahead and append it, or in this case, prepend it to the bottom using the spread operator and adding that state onto it. After that, we can go ahead and allow the set cookies that it has auto-generated. And then we can also create a set CPS, which will be, for now, empty. And then we can add purchase upgrade so that we can access this function whenever we want to purchase upgrades. So saying all of this, we can start filling in all of these different values. So first, let's give this a value that we can use and interface with. Value. And then inside of all of this, we actually don't even need these braces because we're going to be doing something special with it. We're actually just going to do a set state. We're going to have a previous state. And then with that previous state, we are going to basically just update it with the previous values and the new cookie value that we have. So I don't know why this is giving me errors, but that should fix it. All right. And basically we do the exact same thing with CPS, but instead of cookies, we're updating CPS being the value that we're changing. So with this, whenever we use context values, we can set CPS and it will just update the entirety of the object and just change the CPS value. Same thing with set cookies and changing the cookie value. So all of that should now be automated. Last thing we can do is it's going to be yelling at us for adding these missing dependencies. So we're going to go ahead and add those dependencies. So anytime these values change, or one component changes it, all the others will also change, and all of these will apply to them. After that, we can finally get into our last, probably most important piece of logic, and that is actually applying the cookies per second to our cookie total. So what we'll do to implement that is we'll be using a use effect that updates every time that state CPS changes, and that will basically just proc or activate a interval that will just add cookies every single interval. So kind of complicated, but we'll walk through it. So real quickly, I'm going to change this music because it sounds like not hype. Let's do a hype one. Wow, that is even slower. Let's do electropop. I like that one. All right, this is hype. Okay, so let's go back to the code real quick, and let's finish this use effect. So once again, you'll see later why we will need to update this whenever our CPS, stuttering right now, our CPS changes. So let's go ahead and add in state.cps, which will update every time CPS changes, because we're going to create an interval. Get up, Cobalt. It's kind of one step ahead of me here. Oh my gosh, it is really ahead of me here. And yeah, we're going to update state using set state. Give it a previous state to use. Wow, Copilot's on top of it. Jeez. Yeah. And then with the set state, we're just going to be using the previous information, and we're going to be returning new information containing all of the previous information, as well as updated cookies using the previous state's cookies plus the previous state's CPS. So essentially what this is doing is it's saying that once I update this interval, let me just close it out. Where is it? Okay, there you go. Okay, so this whole mess of code is basically saying that we're creating this interval, and every 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second is going to set the state, and it's going to update all the previous information and only change cookies, which will be the previous amount of cookies plus the previous amount of CPS, or the CPS that it had. With that, we're also able to return it as a expression where we clear interval. So it will just set a new interval using this interval. And anytime that our CPS changes, it will also update this function with the new CPS. So yeah. So with this, we now have code to actually update the cookies every single second. But we can't see that yet because we don't have a shop just yet. But we'll get to there in a bit. We'll just fill out all of this logical side of the code, which kind of is hard to understand. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'm trying to make sure I can fit an entire cookie clear game in 2 hours, which is pretty hard. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick breather for myself because I'm kind of going a little too fast. All right. Okay, so now that we have completed some of these to-dos, let's go ahead and fill out all the other to-dos, which seems like there's only 4 left. So let's see. Okay, let's do calculate total CPS. This seems pretty easy compared to everything else to do. I'm going to be using some wacky magical JavaScript, but for the most part, just believe me, the JavaScript code will work. It's just complicated stuff per se. So yeah. So we're going to return object.keys. So we're getting all of the keys of the upgrades. So basically getting, where are they? Basically all of these different keys right here. So the names of them. So once we get those names, actually we want to define 3 things that we're going to take in. We're going to be taking in a building type. We're going to be taking in a count of how many buildings we have, and also the base price per building. So we'll be using, actually, sorry, that's for building cost. So we want the building type, the count, and the cost. And then for calculate total CPS, we just need the list of upgrades and then the base building CPS. That way we're able to spread across all of them and calculate the total CPS of all of the upgrades you have currently. So getting the name of all the upgrades using object.keys of upgrades, we're able to use reduce to a smaller value. And with this, we're just going to take in a reduce of total CPS, and then upgrades, which we'll just call upgrade for now. And then with that, we're able to do some logic on this. So with this, what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, sorry, backtracking a little bit. Do you guys remember from Cookie Clicker? Whenever you buy a cursor upgrade, which we can check real quick. I actually have it in the background, so I'm going to say some. Cookie Clicker. If you guys can recall, whenever you click the cookie, it will basically add the amount of cookies plus the amount of cookies you get from the cursor upgrade. So the cursor upgrade will only change the amount of cookies you get when clicking versus every other upgrade, which will add it to your clicks per second, which will basically activate and add every second. Saying that, we can use this logic and say that if the upgrade is a cursor, we can go ahead and just return your total CPS. So this is basically what this is saying is that we're going to be skipping the cursor in the CPS calculation. Next, what we can do is we can say that we can create a constant count, and this will just be the amount of what's it called? The amount of upgrades we have for the certain upgrade or the certain building. Building and upgrades are used interchangeably here. We can also create how much the next building will cost. So CPS for upgrade, equal to base building CPS, and we index it with upgrade. So it's saying that this base building CPS, we can see how much CPS we will get for upgrading it by just saying, okay, let's look at, let's say Prism. Prism is this amount, and that's the CPS we will get with the upgrade. And then we can just return it using total amount of CPS that we have plus the count of that building times the amount that we would get. So that's basically calculating the total amount of CPS you will get for that. And what this will do is it's going to accumulate through everything, and it will add the total it will get the total CPS that you have currently. So going through all the building counts you have, it's looking at the base building CPS and just multiplying them together to get the total CPS across all the buildings or all of the upgrades. Kind of wacky logic, but I think it's pretty cool. The next thing we can do is we can move on to calculating how much the building will cost. And luckily, this isn't too hard, and it's just using a mathematical formula that Clicker uses. So the way that this will work is we're just going to return a base build cost. We're going to return getting the base building cost of a certain building type specified through one of these parameters. And all we're going to do is we're going to exponentiate it with 1.15 or 1.15 to the amount of buildings there are. So basically adding 15 exponentiated. So 1.15, and then we'll raise that to how many buildings there are. And this is essentially the mathematical formula Cookie Clicker uses to calculate how much it will cost to build the next building. So using this, we now have a exported function that we can use in other components, such as the shop, to show how much it's going to cost for the next upgrade. So with that, we are almost done now. We just have two more parts to fill in here, but for the most part, we almost have everything done. So let's go ahead and create a internal function that memoizes how much the buildings cost. So with this, pretty simple to what we had before, but this time all we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking in a building type and how many that we have. With this, we can basically just calculate the building cost, giving in building type, count, and building cost. Wow, very simple. And after that, let's just add a empty dependency array to say that it only runs once. Yeah, and let me just check my notes real quick. Okay, and you will see where exactly we're using this memo calculate building cost in 1 second whenever we get into implementing the final function of our cookie provider being purchase upgrade. This is pretty hard if you think about it, because you need to know what building it is, how many you have, as well as how much it's going to cost. So there's a lot of information to show here, but this is basically the main function that we will be using whenever we want to purchase a new upgrade. All right, so for the most part, all we're going to need is we're going to need to know what building we are actually trying to purchase the upgrade for, because besides that, we have all of the internal logic already inside of this. So we're going to use the building type and act on it with setting the new state for our state being, where is it? This object right here. This is basically a storage of all of our data. So we can set state. Let's use the previous state and let's update the state. So the first thing we'll need to do is we're going to need to know the current amount of buildings we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to use const current count is going to be the state where we take in upgrades and then we take in building type. So we're getting the current amount of the current amount of buildings, or current amount of a specified upgrade. Sorry, kind of hard to say all in one. After that, we need to calculate how much it's going to cost. So for that, we can use our memo calculate building cost and just give it in building type and then current count. Honestly, you could probably remove the memoized part, but it's just a little bit more efficient. Up to y'all how you guys want to implement it. But now we have the current count and the cost of the building to purchase it. With that, we can do some pretty cool stuff. So let's check if the amount of cookies is how much you have, or let's check if you have enough cookies to purchase the upgrade. So if you have enough cookies to purchase the upgrade, we're going to create a new upgrade to use called new upgrade, and then we are going to give it basically all the information from previous upgrades, and then we're going to update building type. Building type, and we're going to upgrade how many you have by current count plus 1, and that's where we use building count or current count. So we're getting the amount of buildings we have for a specified upgrade, and then we're adding 1 to it. After that, we now have a new upgrades object, and all we have to do is add that. So what we can do is we can add return. Copilot's kind of ahead of me here. Add all the previous information. Update cookies with the new difference, because we just bought it, we're going to have less cookies. After that, we can update our CPS because we have new CPS information using the calculate total CPS function we created, which is pretty cool. And then lastly and finally, we can add the new upgrade information, or the new count to it. And besides this, why is it yelling at me? Oh, yeah, we also have to update this whenever we have a change to the building costs. And after that, for the most part, we have coded the entirety of Cookie Clicker's logic. So I know it's a lot. It's filled with so much different complex logic, but in the end, this is the entirety of Cookie Clicker for the most part, or at least the bare bones of it. So I can save this and hope it renders, and it does. Thank me, honestly. Okay, yep, it works. We're good now. Let's just check that layout has the cookie provider, and it does. Perfect. Now all of our components inside of our layout will now have this information, which lets us create an actual game. So let's go into Cookie Shop. Actually, no, I don't want to touch that yet. That's going to be a lot of work. Let's actually go to Biggie Cookie and actually make it add to your cookie score instead of just console log Biggie Cookie clicked. So saying that, for the most part, this logic isn't complicated at all. You just need to update how we handle click and also get the information. So now that we created this provider, we need to use the provider and grab information from it. So it is really, really simple. All you have to do is basically, I forgot the name of it, disassemble, one of those words. Basically use the use cookie context. I click tab, hopefully it imports, and it does. And we want to grab 3 bits of information. We want the amount of cookies you have, we want set cookies, and then we want upgrades. With this information, we can now go to handle click and basically say we want to check it's called how many additional cookies you get whenever you click the button. So let's get the number of the additional cookies by getting upgrades, how many cursors you have. Yep. And then we want to multiply this by the CPS of each cursor upgrade. The base building CPS.cursor. With this, all it's doing is it's saying that we're getting how many cursors you have and how much each will give you per cookie click. And with this, it will add that much as additional cookies. And to return the new cookie amount, all we have to do is just do a set cookies and give it how many cookies, how many cookies we have. And, oh yeah, because it's adding to the cookie amount. So we have how many cookies we have. We add 1 for the base, and then we add 1 for the additional cookies we get. So that is basically all of the logic we have for Biggie Cookie. Whenever we click the button now, oh, we haven't upgraded or updated the display. So we got to do that real quick. But, oh, is he yelling at me? Upgrade is not defined. Oh no, okay. Is that it? Yeah, that was it. Okay, I just misspelled it. All right. Getting on to this part over here, let's go ahead and update the cookie counter. So for the most part, this is unbelievably simple. All we have to do is get the cookie information from our context and then display it, which should be really, really simple. So let's go ahead and get cookies and our clicks per second to display using the use cookie context. Using that, we now have that information. Oh, we didn't import it though, so we need to import use cookie context from, ooh, it's not a default export, from utils cookie provider, which should get us that now. And then all we have to do is just add that to this over here. So we can actually display it, the return. So we're gonna do, what's it called? Cookies. And then we're gonna have CPS. And just to give it some more information and context, what we're going to do is we're going to just do cookies here. And then we're going to add, I guess we do per second and just say how many we get. And using this, it's not a big enough number, I think. Okay, we'll get back to this in a second. Why is that the issue, though? Cookie provider. It's probably just a one-off error we're seeing here. Maybe it's in cookie counter. Let's let's make sure Biggie cookie. Let's check that real quick. Biggie cookie, we're getting cookies, set cookies, and then upgrades. Then we're handling the click with additional cookies. Oh, I think it deleted the logic. Oops. Okay. Sorry, additional cookies is equal to upgrades dot cursor times base building cost dot cursor. Oh, does that work? No. Okay. Base building cost dot cursor. That's the issue. I accidentally deleted the code. Now it's giving me an error still. Oh, base building CPS. Oops. Just want the CPS of the cookie. It's giving me an error still. Cannot read properties reading cursor. Upgrades.cursor multiplied by base building. CPS.cursor add additional cookies to 1. So it's not able to read the properties of undefined reading cursor. Okay, maybe the initialization of use cookie context is not right. Okay, these should all be server-side components. Base building CPS, that's why. Imported the wrong thing. Oh, it's still not working. Okay, let's see. Let me check my notes real quick. Okay, let's check. Cookie provider real quick. Oops. Is anything here sticking out? All right, let me just check the code real quick. Sorry, y'all. I thought this would work first try. So we are clearing the interval 1000 using state CPS, previous value, cookies, new cookies. I mean, the use effect shouldn't be the problem here. It's kind of like context value. In the previous state, we're basically using the value, adding the new value whenever we change the state. Same with CPS, using the previous state. It says CPS using value, purchase upgrade. All right, using that. Purchase upgrade using a callback, basically taking the building type. Actually, we're gonna use that. Building type, count, calculate building type count, building cost. Oh, okay. When we purchase an upgrade, okay, this is not it either. Check the use state. Use state, cookies, CPS. We do have cursor. That looks right to me. Okay, calculate total CPS. I don't know why this is not working. This is odd. CPS for upgrade. Sorry, y'all. Brief break while I try to find why it's not working. It should be working. Base building CPS. Are these values right? They should be right. Cannot read properties of undefined cursor. It's so odd. Okay. Oh no. The life of a front-end web developer. Trying to debug and figure out what's wrong. Okay. So it's saying it can't find upgrades.cursor. Just honestly really, really odd. So we're getting the use cookie context, getting cookies, set cookies, and upgrades from use cookie context. Then on each click, we're just getting an additional amount of cookies, getting how many cursor upgrades we have, and then multiply it by the base building CPS of cursor, which we can see here. Should be working. That's really, really odd. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on with this issue and hope that it gets fixed later on. But something that we will real quickly realize if we continue moving on is the number of cookies that we have is actually gonna grow really, really large, and it's gonna get hard to display whenever you have, let's say, 15 decimal places. So because of that, what we're going to do is we're going to actually use the util file that we created earlier in the stream, and we are going to create a utility function to help us turn the number to string. But before that, let's take a quick 2-minute break so I can catch my breath because I'm going pretty fast right now. So thank y'all. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and move on with the logic to convert numbers to a string version of it, which will have an abbreviated amount. Let's say millions is M, billions is B, right? So we're going to quickly create an export of this function. We're going to call it number to string version. And let's go ahead and make it taken a number. And Copilot's not exactly right this time. So real quickly, whenever we think of creating this, oh wow, we're gonna have an edge case where if the number is 0, we can't really do numbers on it, and for the most part, it's just 0. So let's do if number is equal to 0, then we want to, return 0. After that, we can create, trying to think here. We can create or do some logic to actually return the number to locale string. So basically making this a formatted version of the number that we want to use. So we're going to say if it is less than 1. So the problem is when you have decimals, the following logic that we're going to be doing can't really do stuff on that because the method that I'm going to be using is basically counting the number of digits in the number and using that to figure out what it needs. So saying that, we can just check real quickly by using the absolute value of the number and just positive or negative. And if that is less than 1, then we're going to need to just convert it regularly. So we can real quickly return number to locale string, which we can pass an undefined beginning. And then with that, we can give it a minimum digits of 2, just 2 leading after the decimal. Sorry, 2 in the front, one of those things. We can give it a maximum of 2, and that should be the most of it, at least for the decimal form of it. The next thing that we can do is we can calculate the order of magnitude, or basically what type of number it is, like billion, thousand, trillion, million, etc. So we can use const order of magnitude, and hopefully Copilot can take the wheel here, and it did. So what this is doing is it's just taking a log or finding the exponent value given this number, but we do want to make it only per 3. So, wait, sorry, that's Python, the / to floor it. All right, so we're able to get that value. Now let's create a list of different suffixes. So it's gonna follow after it. For thousands, we don't really need a suffix. Actually, for the default, we don't need a suffix if it's less than 3. Then we can create one for, I think it has it here, 1,000, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, novillion, etc. Right? Oh, this one goes on forever. Okay, sick. Nice. Let's just use what Copilot outputted and trust that it works. So we can go ahead and give it, create the suffix and basically indexing it based on the order of magnitude. And this should give us the suffix depending on the order of magnitude. And with that, we now need to scale the number that's going to go before the suffix using const scaled number is equal to number divided by the divisor, which we will create a divisor. Let's just name it divisor then. Divisor, and just make it a math.power and just 10 to the order of magnitude times 3. So basically getting the order of magnitude again, but making it only with 1 at the beginning, pulling it with zeros, and then dividing the number by that. And that should be our scaled number. With that, we can now create a formatted number, kind of getting complicated here, based on the scaled number to locale string, and just let Copilot take the wheel here of, what's it called? 2 decimal places, yeah. And then what we can do there, we can go ahead and return the formatted number. And then, actually we can make it, if it ends in 0, well, it actually has a good point here. If it ends in 0, we don't want that at all. We just want to drop it. Else we can display it with it and the suffix. But I think that we'll notice is that in some instances, we're going to want to have the double decimals. In some instances, we don't want it. Let's say cookies, we want whole number cookies. So we can go ahead and create another optional parameter here and initialize it to false. And it's going to be basically drop decimals. And we can say, basically, the decimal places that we will be using can be equal to the drop decimals if that's true. It's going to be, if it's true, we use none of it, else we use 2 of it. And using that, we will change this to the decimal places. If using 2, we'll use whatever it asks for. And then we will also update that here with the decimal places. And yep, that should be pretty much it. So we now have a utility function to convert this to a numerical string. With that, you can now apply that everywhere. So let's go ahead and convert cookies to that, and we want to make it true for drop decimals. And then for CPS, we don't want to drop the decimals. So will it give me an error is the question. Oh, we got to define it. I'm going to go ahead and import number version to string from utils. It's still giving me the cursor error. What? Okay, that is odd. Let me just check this real quick. Okay, will this work out of curiosity? Oh, it's giving me a math.power is not a, that is wrong. It is a function. What? JavaScript is impressing me every single day. How is JavaScript not a function? Or sorry, how is math.pow not a function? Oh, math.pow, not power, lol. Okay, I don't know what changed that there. Let me go check something real quick. Check something. That's so interesting. Why is it broken? Just need to check it real quick. Give me 1 second, y'all. Oh my gosh. I figured it out. Okay. The reason is because it's upgrades plural, not upgrade. And now it works. Okay. that was a big oops on my part. But now we have functional cookie clicker where when we click the cookie, it updates the display. Now, we don't have a shop yet, which is the last component that we will be implementing here. So let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be probably the last complicated part before we finish the entire game. So let's just bite the bullet and move on. So yeah, so whenever we have a shop here, we need 3 basic bits of information, right? We want the number of cookies that you have so we can do cost checks, or at least pass it into the cost check or the purchase building function that we created. Then we want the purchase upgrade, the actual function that we'll be calling and passing cookies into. And then we want a list of all the upgrades so we can display the upgrade information on the shop page. Yeah, so for the most part, let's do just that. Let's disambiguate this using the use cookie context, which we will also need to import. There we go. All right, with that, we will also need a list of all building names so we can actually display them. So we're gonna do const building, let's do building types to be more formatted. All right, so with this, we can get from the upgrades the keys of it, which are the building names or the building types. And yeah, okay. So that's pretty much all of the information that we'll need to calculate and use. We can just move forward with actually returning information here. So let's actually remove cookie shop and move on to actually listing the information. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to quickly give it a class or some styling. I'm going to make it the full width and give it 4 padding. Oh, why are you like this? Okay, there you go. Okay, I want that to look ugly. Yeah, so from all of these building types, let's go ahead and map that. We can do that by doing building types, map over all of that, given a type. With this type, we can do some logic with it. So let's actually get the cost of each building type, and we can just use the calculate building cost function that we made earlier. With that, we can pass it in type and upgrades of that type. And then we will also need one last parameter, which will be the base building cost. And this should be all the information that we need to get the cost for a specific building from the function that we created earlier. With this information, we can also calculate the CPS, just so we can add something to see the CPS we'll get per building. And we can just do that with, use that with base building CPS, and they'll show us how much we'll get per building type. With that, we can finally return something, an actual component to display, using return. Yeah. So let's create a button that we can use if we ever want to display information. If let's use a button so we can actually check the on clicks and do the purchase, use the purchase function whenever we click on it. Words are really hard right now. So create a button. We give it a class name. And with this, we can just, actually, we just need, I don't need this just yet. We can actually just go ahead and use width full, flexbox, justify between, item center, margin bottom 2, and then let's do a font bold. With this, we do need a key prop. Let's go ahead and add that. Key is going to equal to height. Right, and then let's do, I guess we'll need some disabled logic, won't we? I'm going to say that if key amount is less than the cost, we disable the button. And let's do the on click. So on click, we're just going to purchase the upgrade. So let's do purchase upgrade and give it a type. So whenever we click on the button, we'll now purchase the upgrade. So I wonder if that will show now or if it will yell at me. Cookie context is not a function. What? Did it not import it? That is so odd. Okay, we'll get back to that in a bit. Let's go ahead and with the rest of the code, just run off of theory here. So with all this information, we want to display this in a nice way. Let's do a horizontal container. That way we can put the image, kind of similar to how Cookie Clicker does it here, but they have an image and then the text and then the amount. So we can go ahead and do that. Giving this a quick class name of flex column, justify start, so it's at the beginning. Then we can do item start. And then inside of this, we can go ahead and just throw, let's say we want 3 bits of information here. Oops. Let's add all 3. And then each of this will contain, let's say we wanted to contain the name, the number of cookies it costs, and then how much CPS it will provide. So what we can do is we can just, let's do some quick logic to capitalize it so we don't use lowercase. So we just use the type, we get the first character, and then we make it uppercase. So 2 uppercase, and then we add the rest. So just type.slide. So it starts at the first character and continues going on. Then we can use the second bit of information, which is just the cost. And then we can use our number 2 version string that we just built and display the cost using that. And then we also probably want to drop the decimals because that's going to get really big at some point in time, and we don't want to use 2 decimal places whenever we have millions or trillions. After that, we can also convert CPS and also drop that, and then just add CPS to that. And cookies. All right, and then the last bit here is we could just give it some styling. Last name is equal to text extra large. And then I can just copy all of those, and then let's make these 2 small. And then that won't fix that bug, unfortunately, but the last thing we would want to display is we want to display the number or all the items that there are, how many buildings we have, and let's do that with a upgrades, indexing it with the type, and let's make it pretty big. Text 2XL. Yeah, that should be, oh, what happened there? Okay, there we go. And I don't know why use cookie context is not working. That is really, really odd here. I guess we'll get back to that in a bit. Until then, we also probably do want to display the images of everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and you can find all of the images online on the Clicker wiki. So I've gone ahead and have already compiled a list together, which I'll just copy and paste with all the building names. And with all these building names, we can actually start displaying some images, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and use next image. Give it a source of just the buildings type .webp. Give it an alternate text of type, and give it a height and width of 64. Yep. Then after that, we just need to display the name of the building itself. So just use this, create a div. Actually, we've already displayed the name. We don't need that, do we? Oh, we forgot to actually display it horizontally, though. We need to display all of this in a flex column. So we can do a class name, flex, justify start, and center. I swear we just did this, though. Yeah, we did that here. Okay. See, we move all of that. I think this is probably the same too, then. Oh yeah, because they're also a column, and we're also moving to the start. So, it's still not showing. That is really, really odd. Okay. But the last thing that we would probably need to do is we want to show if we can buy it or not, and with that we can just create a, let's make it a thing to calculate the color. Calculate color, we'll take in the cost and the amount of cookies we have, and with that we can just return if we want to use it or not. So if the cookies is, the amount of cookies you have is greater than the cost, then we can make it green, otherwise we will make it red. And then with that we can do some logic on the button itself to do all of that. So let's do a calculate color, cost, cookies, and with that, it will automatically output the color that we'll be using. Says that I don't know why it's giving me a use context error here. Oh, I just realized we use set cookies instead of purchase upgrade. Oh, the error is because we're not using a use client. Like always that error. Right? Okay, there we go. So we need to import building cost. We need to import a few more things too. Yep, base building CPS. Almost there. That was pretty close. Let's, instead of background, let's make it text. Will that be a little more less ugly? Okay, okay. So now everything is kind of going down. Let's make it horizontal, which we can do very simply by changing this to be, you want it to be flex row? That's the question. No, we probably just wanted it to be flex and then make this flex row. And then we're gonna want a full width. Actually, this is a full width. Interesting. This is pretty close here. We can actually just debug this real quick by checking this container. And it's saying justify start, item start. Okay, so the issue here is that we want this should be justified start, item start, because the button, I think it's the container cookie shop actually. So we go to our page.js. We probably want justify between. Does that work? Ooh, no it's not. Where is it that's controlling this? Oh, it's this. Just do a quick Control-Shift-F, paste that. Oh. This right here needs a full width. That's what it was. No, still no. Interesting. Okay, unfortunate. Oh, because we want it to be item center. Okay, that justifies it there. We also want a gap here. Get a gap of 4. We don't need to really specify flex row. You know what? For the most part, I'm gonna call it a win. Not exactly centered horizontally. I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, is it because of the justified between here? LOL. Okay, that might be it. Let's search for that real quick. Ooh, why aren't you there? Oh, it's not gonna have that. Okay, right here, what if we do justify center? Did I change anything? Oh, that's so odd. Flex call, justify start, item center. You know what? We'll just take that as a dub. I think that's pretty good for now. We can... I'm going to just give it a bigger gap, actually. Not the prettiest. Would you want a wrapping div and make the container the full width of the flex? You're right. Actually, that would work. Yeah. Okay. So let me just recheck. You have a button. You have a div. This should be... Okay, it's doing the row stuff. And you're saying wrapping a div and making that container the full width of the flex container. That's what I'm doing right now. You can see that this div right here is taking on the full width, and it's wrapping everything inside of it. Is it because of justify start? Would it be better if it... The thing is, I did justify start. Oh, okay. I guess that does work, yeah. That kind of makes sense. Because otherwise you would have the images all the way on the left and the numbers all the way on the right, which isn't the nicest to look at, but I think this is pretty good. Okay, some of the images are kind of derpy, and some don't work, but that's just because of the way I named it. So not too much to worry about, but I think we can actually go ahead and start playing this game for the remainder of the 10 minutes we have and see if it works. Oh! It can't read CPS. LOL. Why won't it read CPS? State.cps. We were so close. So close to getting JavaScript code running and working first time. Does a state have a CPS value? It does have a CPS value. Let me just check this code real quick. That is, once again, really, really odd. If you guys have any idea, please feel free to let me know. What I'm checking right now, matching all the code with my notes right now to make sure everything's okay. Upgrade building type. Okay. Really odd. Let me see if this will fix it. Let's fix it. That does. Okay. It's interesting. What was the issue then? That is the question. Okay. So we have a use effect here. It would be in this use effect. So something in here is kind of wacky. So we have interval, set interval. We're setting the state from the previous state and basically returning the previous information and appending or changing cookies using the previous cookies and the previous state's CPS. With that, we proc that every 1000 milliseconds. And then we return this lambda, clear interval, and then we update with state CPS. We definitely want to change every time that changes. The state CPS would be the stuff we have up here. Okay. That is really odd. There has to be something here that I'm missing. Okay. Does anyone have any idea of why it's saying cannot read properties of undefined? State reading CPS. I should definitely have state from up here. Yeah, state's set right here, and then we have a CPS value. So it should exist. Okay. I want to see if there's anything different with my notes here. Let me just take this real quick. It's not this. It would be somewhere in the purchase function, I'm pretty sure. Okay, what is my purchase function here looking like? Okay. Let's see if there's anything different with this then. I genuinely have no clue why this isn't working. It should be working. Because it is defined. It might be a ChatGPT moment to see if it can be another pair of eyes on my code. Okay, well, I'm just gonna paste in code that I have for my notes real quick, and that would fix it. I'll go ahead and post my all of the code once I fixed it, and it should work now after the stream. As you can see here, we now have a working version of Cookie Clicker. Let's go ahead and buy a grandma. You see, I now get 1 cookie per second with a grandma. Ooh. See if I can build up enough to get a farm in 3 minutes. You can see it also scales up to 115. Now it's 132 per grandma. Upgrade my CPS so I can click faster. Okay. Trying to get 3 cookies per second. That's nice. Totally get more. Alright. Basically just playing Cookie Clicker on stream, which is a lot of fun. I wish we should implement Cookie Clicker upgrades next time, so we can actually scale a bit faster than this. Ooh. We can get to a farm. Oh, he was doing that. I really want to get to a farm before end of stream. But yeah, I guess to wrap everything up, this is building Cookie Clicker in Nextjs. We barely made it in under 2 hours. There were a few blunders here and there, but overall, I think everything went pretty well. If you guys haven't already checked in, please check in at this link, as it will close really soon. But filling this out ensures that you get swag from MLH, which is always a lot of fun, and the stickers are pretty cool. We are tailing near the end of Global Hack Week, so I hope you guys have enjoyed Global Hack Week games. If you haven't or weren't able to participate as much as you would like to, there's also Global Hack Week every single month, so the next one will be in April. So there's a lot to look forward to, a lot of cool stickers to get, swag to get. You can also create projects and submit it for prizes. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff to do, to compete for. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. And if you guys are still some time and want to tag along, there should be a stream right after this. So yep, thanks y'all.